Rolling Stones and the Beatles and these bands, they listen to Chuck Berry and they listen to Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf, and those artists were the direct inspiration and link for them to form bands and create their version of that music, which would go on to become rock in the late 60s, mid to late 60s. For stoner rock, those initial seeds, if you will, would have been bands like, in particular, it'd be like Black Sabbath. In the mid 80s, no one was listening to Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath in the mid 80s was as rare as Howlin' Wolf in the mid 60s. Black Sabbath was a throwback to the early 70s. The early 70s was a smelly time. In the 80s was all about getting away from the 70s as fast as possible. But the 80s went in a direction that a lot of us, me in particular, didn't really care for. I went deeper and deeper into underground music in the 80s, but I was simultaneously being inspired to be a musician. A lot of that stemmed from the music that I was being inspired by, which was DIY hardcore punk rock. But you can even hear the beginning of the return to heavy rock in bands like Black Sabbath. I'm sorry, Black Flag, in the mid 80s, even earlier, in the early 80s. And as a kid, I noticed that, and Black Flag was starting to grow their hair long and stuff. And I thought, what are they listening? Oh, they're getting into Black Sabbath. I'm going to check out Black Sabbath. And once I heard Black Sabbath, it was like I saw the light. So as far as my participation and my interpretation of what stoner rock is, it's the continuation of what Black Sabbath was doing. And then we went on to discover other bands, like Cactus and Captain Beyond and other great 70s rock bands. But I think stoner rock, Blue Cheer, of course, I think it begins with Black Sabbath myself.